everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's game is between Tang Jiawen and Otake Yu. So Tang Jiawen, I talked about one of her games against Asami Ueno, back probably a month ago that video was. And of course, in that game, I was featuring Asami Ueno, but Tang Jiawen is obviously a very strong female player as well. She's currently the #1 female player in China, and she is the only female player left in a round of 32. She's playing against Otake Yu. It's my first time ever hearing that name. I did a bit of research. Apparently, Otake Yu is a Japanese player, 7-dan professional, and he was born in 2001. So that makes him 24 years old. And so in this LanKe Cup, round 32, what was really weird was that Japan did not really send their best players to come and play in this tournament. I don't know exactly the reasons. But according to the commentaries, basically they were saying that, the reason is because the LG Cup, because of the, Kujie was basically left the tournament because of the rules and stuff. So there was a conflict between Korea and China, and that really discouraged Japan from participating in some of the major tournaments. I'm not sure if that's the entire reason, but that's definitely one of the reasons. Tang Jiawen is playing as black in this game. And we have a very solid opening where no one is playing like crazy stuff. And then we have white taking the territory right away. Tang Jiawen plays the pincer from here. This is the very standard pincer plays. The reason this is really good is because the next move, black is aiming at the peep here. So if white plays somewhere else, black has a very solid follow-up. Either like this, poking at the shape, or black can slide into the corner, taking the roots away from white. And these have a lot of values because it makes the two stones very insecure. In the actual game, Otake decided to take another corner, and that's perfectly fine. It's a very territorial style. Tang Jiawen now follows up with the idea of basically getting rid of the roots. It's a very nice territorial move. It's a huge move, but also the value comes with the insecurity of the two stones. White now pressing on top. Here, black can respond. Obviously, that's a legit move. The only issue with this move is that when white extends, there's a little bit of weakness over here. So now if black jumps, which is a very important move when it comes to attacking white, white has a combination of kicking. So if black blocks, white will push and then cut on the outside. So now black cannot really capture the stone because then we have an Atari, and then we capture like this. So black cannot play like this, obviously. And if black connects, then if the ladder works, yeah, it works in this case, and that would be also problematic for black because now white controls the outside. So that is the problem with this shape. So the correct move is for black to simply just back down a little bit and making sure there's no cutting point. Okay, so whenever you encounter this shape, as white, you can give your opponent a kick, and I think a lot of times your opponent will like actually block, and then you can push and cut. This is very severe. So that's the correct response for black to deal with this situation. So if white pushes, then we can connect. And if you push here, then I can block. And black doesn't have connection issues, although it looks a little bit, black's all pressed on the first and second line, but it's better than collapsing locally. So that's what Tang Jiawen was probably worried about when white presses on top. So in the actual game, Tang Jiawen chose another main variation, that is to simply jump up. So this is a very good move. That completely blocks white from coming towards the right side. And it builds the moyo, obviously, on top over here. So it's a very nice move. White now decides to play the shoulder hit. So white could obviously choose this variation as well. This leads to a complex fight. So let's play out what the correct variation is. So black honeys, white blocks, black connects, and white obviously has to connect. Now black cannot rush to live the corner. That would be too passive. Here, black has no choice but to cut white into pieces. White has to turn. This is the shape move. Ataring would be a bad move because then black extends. Black wanted to play this move anyway, and we're just helping him getting the momentum. So now our group on top is in a very awkward situation. So it's better to not helping our better not to help our opponent play a move that they want to play anyway. Okay, so now black needs to live the corner, right? If you don't, then I have this attach going on, and black is not really alive. So black will play the Kosumi, and then white has a very famous Tsuji that is to attach. So here, you don't want to Atari in either direction because it really, whenever you Atari like this, black extends, there's still a cutting point. This group is not completely settled, and this group is under a lot of pressure. So a lot of times, when it comes to fighting, it's important to understand that we should not just play these Ataris because we feel like it. Rather, we should focus on getting our group safe. So the correct move for white to play here is to attach into black, and this is the shake move. So we're just treating our group on top without hurting the group on the left side. Black extends, and now white hanes. Black extends, and white plays the tiger's mouth. The reason white doesn't really worry about this group is because tactically there's no way for black to capture it. So if black extends, white will play the hane, and of course if black clamps on top, we'll push out. Black cuts, and then we can just ladder the two stones. And of course, the other variation won't work either. If you just cut, then white can simply go into a liberty fight where black is going to lose the 3 stones. So the correct move is for black to simply extend. White plays the Kema, getting himself out. Black attaches, white extends. And now black plays the tiger's mouth, forcing white to connect. And finally, black hops out into the center with a very beautiful 2-space jump move. And you can clearly tell that this is an equal game because black has a very nice corner, white has a beautiful side, and both players have a weak group that they're trying to run towards the center. So this is just a dynamically equal position. So the game could have gone in this direction as well, but that's not what Otake wanted to play. And in the actual game, he wanted to play simpler by playing a shoulder hit. Black blocks, white now pushes on top, black tenukis, which is a very interesting choice. And then they played out a Joseki in the corner. White now tries to add an extra move and destroy black's influence. And now black goes ahead and protects the stone here. White extends, and black plays the Kosumi, a very nice move that fixed all the problems that I was talking about. And here, white invades. And I really like this invasion because it not only invades, but also put a lot of pressure on both groups that black has. Okay, so now black blocks, and now white plays the Atari. So the commentator I was watching was very fiercely criticizing this move, and I totally agree with it. I think what he said was that, well, this move, it looks very unprofessional. And I can't agree more because when I looked at this move, I was also a little bit shocked. I wasn't expecting a professional player to play a move like this. The reason this move is so terrible is because why is white spending a move over here when there's no problem? There's no tactical problem that white has here. So basically, white is very strong already. Adding an extra move and hoping black would connect here, that is just crazy, right? Like you're playing against the best female player in China and you expect your opponent to like answer this move. That is not possible. And yeah, and I'm pretty sure a lot of my viewers could already see that this is not really accomplishing much. It doesn't add too much territory for white. It doesn't destroy any territory from black, and it doesn't protect any weakness. Basically, it's a move that does absolutely nothing in early game. It has a little bit of value, but it has, comparing to like a move outside, this is so small. And this is the reason why white just drastically fall behind because of a move that is probably, how can I put it? So it's almost like stopping one move. You basically just like pause one move and let your opponent play an extra move. Just think about it that way. The correct move is obviously for white to jump out, right? This is such an urgent move. It gets the stone out, completely cuts black off. And if white played like this would be a very comfortable game for white because white has a very clear idea of attacking both sides. Well, it's still playable for both players, but you can see that this is such an important move to play. And yeah, so for Otake to play like this is a little bit shocking. Yeah, and that's probably the best commentary I can give for this move. It's just I don't understand why he played like this. Black Ataris, white now takes, and then you see, because of this move that doesn't do much for white, now black gets the initiative and cap white inside. And you can tell this is becoming so difficult for white. White now plays the tiger's mouth, and then black kicks in the corner. So this move is actually not that bad because it's a very big move. It encloses more points, and then it aims at the Atari on the second line, which is a huge follow-up. White extends, black Hanes, white now Hanes, black connects. And this is a Sente, otherwise black will play the... basically, black will play like this, and white's corner is dead, right? So you cannot really get back. And therefore, white has to protect. And here we have black coming back to fix the second line Atari that I was talking about. So for my viewers, if you play a move like this, it looks like huge. But then when white Atari is on the second line, your territory is actually drastically reduced because of this move. This move not only gains white's territory over here, but then you have to like retreat here, and later on white can take, and you have to connect. And this territory is not as big as you think. Right, especially later on, white has this nasty tiger's mouth as well. So it's important whenever you see a shape like this, especially with your third line stone hanging, it's better to not let white Atari. Therefore, in the actual game, black plays the tiger's mouth, white Ataris, black connects, and now white attaches out, trying to break out. Black Hanes, white cuts, and then black extend on top. White Hanes, black cuts, and white now Atari once again, and push on top. So here, a better move for Otake to play is to block on the third line. And the reason is obvious because the idea for white is to disconnect black and break the territory. It's very intuitive that what white's goal is. But apparently Otaku just played a little bit lame, I would say. It's I don't know what word to say, but like basically, okay, let's first look at what happened in the actual game. So white push it on top. Okay, black plays the peep, white Ataris, and then connect, and then letting black just connect like this. So not only black's groups are super safe and connected with a lot of points, but then if you look at what white did, okay, so it's a nice capping move that gets white a lot of influence. And when white connects, you know, you can tell that Otaku builds a very thick outside. Like all his groups are very thick. The problem is like I don't see any points, right? So this is, I think, the problem with Otake. He likes thickness, but then he seems to forget that Go is a game of points, right? White now only has 2 small corners. There's not really much point over here. A little bit points over here, but if you look at black, it's a very solid corner, lots of points over here, potential building over here, and then what's white? How's white gonna compete with all this territory? We're not sure. So white is just playing thick, but very inefficient. So the correct variation for white here is to actually push. If he played this move, he might actually have a chance to come back into this game, because when black Ataris, white will Atari. Black extend, and then white Ataris from outside. Black takes, and white cuts. Black will exchange in the corner, and then turn on the second line. Here, white can just connect, letting black take the second line stone and connect in the group. Now, this would be a much better result because we can see that white has squeezed a lot more territory from black. Especially if you look at the follow-up, white can play like this. And you can see black is all pressed onto the first line. But that's not what was played in the actual game. I think Otake in this game doesn't have too much fighting spirit or the will of fighting. And then he just played very soft in this area. So this is what happened in the actual game. when white connects, as I said, good shapes, good center, good moyo, but like no points. Black now kicks, white blocks, and now black plays the double Hane. And then here you can see that Tang Jiawen is such a great player because this is usually not a Joseki, because this is slightly worse for black. When white captures like this, okay, so this variation, you should not play it in like early game, especially when there's like only a few stones on the board. This is slightly worse for black, right? Because white has a Punuki, it's very strong towards the outside, and then you have a hanging big endgame right here. The reason Tang Jiawen played like this is because if you look at the direction of play, this is excellent. White has a very low second line stone. It's very solid, facing another very solid Punuki with very limited distance. So it forms over concentration, while Tang Jiawen is building on the bright side, where his stones are facing a very large side. So here, you can see that this variation suddenly becomes very good for black because of the direction of play. And more importantly, this is black's Sente. She played the 3-space extension. This is obviously very conservative. A better move would be to play a little bit further because you already have a lot of stones over here. But of course, Tang Jiawen knows that she's definitely ahead after all the soft moves that white played over here. At this point, if you ask AI, this is probably like a 99% win rate for black, because it's just so easy for black to manage such a game, because this group is absolutely solid. This group is beyond solid. And this group, obviously, like no one's going to have a problem with this group. And then there's this group. I mean, like where's the weakness that white can find? That white can, white has nowhere to use his outside influence for attack. Okay, so white now invades. Obviously, you have to invade that area. And then black kicks. White extends. And then black Hanes on top. White Hanes, black Ataris, and then flip Atari. Black takes. And then after an exchange, white Ataris on the second line. Tang Jiawen Ataris on top. Very nice move. Black takes. There's a very natural coast threat right here. White connects. Black takes back. And white connects. And Tang Jiawen here chose a very simple variation that is just to Atari on the first line. It's a very nice variation that connects everything that black has. And now we can see a very ugly shape from white as well. White Ataris, black connects, and white Ataris on top. That's a absolute Sente. Black has to connect. And then white plays a Kosumi. And here, this is where I find that this game to be pretty lame for Otake, because you can see just the lack of fighting spirit from white. Here, I mean, not just a professional player, but I think even amateur level players would realize that white is just behind. So white needs to fight for a win, especially against a solid player like Tang Jiawen. You have to drag black into a fight, especially you have all the outside stones. And here the best move, or the move that would give white player the most chances, is to try to capture this stone in a very big way. So for example, the best move would be for white to play a Kosumi, hoping to capture the territory over here. Of course, that's very difficult because black can just extend. White will block on top. Black can start an attack against the 3 stones. White jumps, black blocks, and now white plays the bamboo shape. Black plays the Kosumi. This is looking at the wedge over here, and white fixed that in Sente and then get his group out. But then after black plays the jump over here, we can tell that, for a good player like Tang Jiawen, she will have no problem, living this group in the center. This is just impossible to kill. But at least this puts pressure on black. At least you have to live. At least there's a chance for white to kill this group. But what happened in the actual game was really boring for white. And it's just almost like a resigning move, right? Basically, what white played was just play Kosumi. And now Tang Jiawen comes back happily capturing the stone. That means that white's building nothing in the center. Okay, let's move a little bit forward. And now white just peacefully goes into the endgame. So this game is very... there's a lack of something in this game. So now, yeah, both players just playing like endgames. white peeps, black connects. White plays the tiger's mouth, and then black connects the very big endgame over here. And then white just plays very standard moves. Black jumps into the center, and you can see that it's so hard for black to make a mistake right now because everything is connected. White extends, black connects, white attaches, and and as you can see white plays attach, then block, forming a little bit points over here, while all of these guys are just getting destroyed, right? Like there's no more territory because of black is extending over here. White now hops into the center, but that's just completely useless because white protects the weakness over here. She doesn't really have to, but she still did. White plays the Hane, black Ataris, and white connects, black connects. White turns here, and black jumps back. And I think any Dan level players who are watching my videos right now, you can I have very good confidence that you can win this game as black. Because there's nowhere that you can make a mistake, and the end game is very simple, and then you're like almost 20 points ahead on the board. Black plays the peep, and then white jumps in. We just block, right? Very easy to understand move for everybody. Really nothing to do here for black. Just respond to everything. White extends, of course, we'll just connect. So intuitive. And now white goes back to make sure that he doesn't have any life and death problems. And then we have a beautiful double camo move on the second line. White turns, black just extends. Like all these are very amateur moves. Like literally you don't need to be a professional to play these moves. Super simple. And then finally we have white place the ko. So the reason white play the tiger's mouth is just for this ko. This is basically an intimidation technique where if black doesn't want the ko, she will just make the extension, and then like this white would gain 2 more points for free. But in the actual game, Tang Jiawen actually didn't even want to give Otake those 2 points. Even if she did, it would be still be a winning game. But then you can see it's so lame. Like at least you gotta fight it out, right? Even if I'm pretty sure black calculated it and then she realized that she can win this kill, but at least you gotta put up a fight because you're so behind. But then no, Otake decided to play peaceful and then just connect. Well, you can play peaceful and you can lose peacefully, and that's your decision. Tang Jiawen connects, and then white plays, like endgame moves like this. I'm not even sure what this does. Just protecting like points. Okay, white black Ataris, and then anyway, there's just some like endgames. Yeah, and here black just gives it up. White just gives it up, and now Tang Jiawen happily has like 5 more points here. So after a few very meaningless exchanges, so when black blocks, white has to take because otherwise there's a ko. And now black connects like this. These are all very small points. And finally, when Tang Jiawen plays the blocking, that's where Otake Yu decided to resign. But he could have resigned 30 moves before this because he's so behind. It's not like a few points. It's a lot of points. Like black is leading by so much. And white barely has like any territory. Well, he has some territory, but like just not enough to compete. So well, it's very impressive game from Tang Jiawen. After all, Otake Yu is a strong player. After from what I heard from the commentator, he has won against all the Japanese players, including the best male players, and also against Asami Ueno. So I was expecting a more fierce game in this game, but apparently Otake played very peacefully, and he lost very peacefully, and I have to say this is one of the hardest games to commentate because there's not much action going on. A lot of the places where I thought there would be at least some fighting and struggle, I don't really see it. So Tang Jiawen just won this game very easily, I'd say. And then she very impressively is going in the round of 16, and her opponent will be very strong. That's for sure, because whoever is left is like extremely strong. So I wish her the best of luck, and I'll commentate on her game when her game is out.